talk a lot about this, but it's time to talk about the rest of the iceberg. If you're new here, I'm Michelle, my PhD was in medicinal chemistry, and I am a massive skincare nerd. I did a body care video 4 whole years ago, and it had a bunch of science-backed body care tips, including a few that were a bit less well known at the time, like this one. Using chemical exfoliants on your armpits works really well as deodorant. I think this one is now pretty common knowledge and it seems to work well for a lot of people. Since then, I have learned a whole bunch of new tips that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about before, and body care has just really blown up. So there's tons of new products I've been using that I want to talk about. I'm also going to cover some different issues like ingrown hairs, dark spots, bumpy skin, and folliculitis. Let's get into it. I'm going to start with Keratosis pilaris, KP, and ingrown hairs. If you've ever got like a patch of bumpy chicken skin or what looks like permanent goosebumps, that might be KP. This is when keratin, which is a protein that's in skin, hair, and nails, it makes them really tough. This can build up and turn into a little plug that blocks up your hair follicles. They turn into like little hard bumps. It is mostly harmless, but it does feel rough and sometimes it gets a little bit itchy. And it isn't really known why it starts happening, but I have started getting it a lot more, and I think it is mostly just age. Like I mentioned last time, exfoliation is the most basic way to deal with KP. It helps loosen the plugs, it gets the keratin to just shed a bit more evenly, and it prevents it from building up. If you're new to exfoliation, I really recommend downloading my exfoliation guide. It goes into a lot more detail. The new thing I've been doing that's made the biggest difference for my KP is using a heel balm on the really stubborn bits, and this is the Dermal Therapy Heel Balm. It has 25% urea, which is a chemical exfoliant. They get a little bit deeper into your skin and it stops the clogs from forming in the first place. It isn't just breaking up the existing clogs. Urea is also a humectant. It's a natural moisturizer in your skin, so it also helps soften the skin as well. This also has lanolin, which is a fantastic moisturizer for hard skin. I found it especially good for chapped lips, and it seems to go really well for KP. Now, obviously, this is a really high concentration. This product is meant for tougher skin, so it can be a bit irritating if you are using it on other parts. Please be careful. Please slow down if you are feeling like you've got a bit of stinging or irritation. But if you're careful with this and you can handle it, I found that this just works so well. The downside of this one I found is that it does have a pretty strong fragrance. By Australian standards, it is probably quite light compared to US products. And I guess to be fair, it is designed to be used very far away from your face. So here is something I've been doing and a tip for any products that you just really don't like the feel or the smell of. You can rinse it off after a few hours because with most products, most of the actives will soak into your skin near the start and they form a little deposit. It's like a buildup of the active ingredients and they can slowly diffuse from that area over time, so you still get most of the benefit. And this, the technical term is short contact therapy. So I apply this a few hours before I shower. This was originally a free sample, and almost all of the products I'm going to talk about were free samples. A lot of them were sent to me with no obligation to talk about them. Some were sent as parts of sponsorships. I didn't have to include any of them in like future videos or anything. I am just talking about them because I really enjoy them and I think some of you will really enjoy them too. If you've watched my videos before, you've probably heard me rave about the Paula's Choice 2% BHA liquid, and this is mostly, I use it on my face, I use my fingers to apply it, and I find that this just never runs out. Once I get to a low enough level and I feel like maybe it's a bit too dicey to use it on my face, I start using it on my body. But what I have also started using recently is the Paula's Choice Weightless Body Treatment with 2% BHA. BHA is salicylic acid. It's a chemical exfoliant. I found that this is a bit less sticky and it's easier to apply because it's a cream. I mean, it's kind of obvious the product that is formulated for your body is easier to apply to your body. Like and subscribe for really great insights like that. Anyway, if you don't have a whole bunch of liquid exfoliant lying around, then you might want to try this one because they are the same price, but this one is twice the size. I've also mostly been using salicylic acid over alpha hydroxy acids, glycolic acid, lactic acid, because it is summer here and alpha hydroxy acids have been found to make your skin more sensitive to the sun, and this happens even after you wash it off. It is a change to your actual skin, but salicylic acid in those same studies did not have this effect. So if you aren't already using sunscreen or sun protective clothing every day over whatever bits of your body you're applying stuff to, then it is probably safer to stick with salicylic acid. This is another product that I have really been enjoying. It is the Topicals High Roller. This one has glycolic and salicylic acid as well as a few soothing ingredients, so niacinamide and zinc PCA. And the thing I like most about this is the format. It has a roller ball, which makes it really easy to apply it to specific areas without your fingers getting really messy. Physical exfoliation works really well for KP. It's basically just like sandpaper, you're just buffing off stuff. This Turkish mitt is my favorite. I had a video on how these work, and the reason I love it so much is that it's just really satisfying to get these giant rolls of skin off, and it's especially good if you haven't exfoliated in a while. This is also good because it's flat so that it dries out faster, there's less chance for microbes to grow. And if that happens, that can potentially cause folliculitis when you use it on your skin again. Folliculitis is those little infected red bumps that look a bit like pimples. I have a few new tips on that for a bit later. I also have a bunch of new scrubs that I am really enjoying. I've been using this one from Supernova Body, which is the Smooth Operator. I have just been really excited to try Supernova Body's products because they just look like they have great ingredients. Their head of product development is Alicia Latte. I think I've said her name right. She's an esthetician and I've been following her on Instagram forever, but I have never tried to say her name. I'm sorry if that was wrong. This has a mix of all the exfoliant types, so it has pumice and rice powder, which are the scrubbing grains for physical exfoliation. There's also chemical exfoliants, glycolic and lactic acid, plus there are enzymes as well, and these are bigger than exfoliating acids. They do a similar thing, but they don't get quite as deep. The instructions say to rub it in for 2 minutes to give it a bit of time to really get to work and then rinse it off. So I thought I would be really smart and just put it on, rub it in, go about my day, leave it on for longer so it had more time to work. Turns out that was a really terrible idea because it dried down and just the little bits fell all over my floor. I just had sand all over my apartment. So don't do that. Just stay in the shower. I guess that is another super smart tip from me. Follow the instructions. Zit Sticker Fizz Fountain is a pretty similar idea. It's got really similar ingredients. So it's got the same glycolic acid, lactic acid, and pumice, but instead of rice powder, it has bamboo powder, and instead of the enzymes, it has salicylic acid. Salicylic acid is all soluble, so it tends to work better in wash-off products than the other chemical exfoliants, which tend to be water soluble. So if you rub this on your skin, it prefers to stick to your skin, then rinse off with the water. If you really don't like having a waiting time, then it might be good to look for a salicylic acid product. This one is a bit runnier. It feels a bit less dense with the scrubbing particles. Then on the other end of the scale, we have the KP Bump Eraser from First Aid Beauty. This one is just really densely loaded with pumice. It has a toothpaste sort of texture. It is just really thick and really intense as a scrub. So I guess the scale is kind of this is on one end and these two are on the other end, but closer together. I have a very low tolerance when it comes to beauty products. So this one is actually borderline too much for me. The Supernova is probably my favorite. Exfoliants are really great all-rounder products. They help with so many things like wrinkles, crepey skin, and dark spots. We'll talk about dark spots a bit later as well. My biggest tip here for KP is that you do need to really be consistent with exfoliating. You can't just try to overload yourself on one day and then hope that that will last for 2 weeks. And honestly, this is a bit of me telling myself this because consistency is not my forte. I also want to point out here that a lot of different skin issues actually look very similar, but it turns out they should be managed in completely different ways. So if you have bumpy skin and you are not sure if it is actually KP, I highly recommend going to see a doctor. A lot of people get ingrown hairs with KP because those keratin plugs can trap the hair inside the follicle, and you can sometimes see a little circle growing under your skin, and most of the time these are just not that big an issue. Now, the method of hair removal that you use can make KP and ingrown hairs worse. One interesting thing I found is that laser hair removal seems to be really good at getting rid of ingrowns. I did used to get really bad bikini line and underarm ingrowns. That is, until I got laser hair removal. After that, they just completely stopped. I never even realized that actually was an upside of laser. Onto dark spots. These are a really common problem if your skin can produce melanin pigment. Then after you have inflammation or injuries such as picking at an ingrown hair, you end up with a dark spot and it lasts for a really long time. My skin is very melanocompetent, it's more of a melano overachiever, and exfoliants of course work well for this, but I've also stepped it up by adding in retinoids. In the last few years, there's been a whole bunch of retinol body products coming out. I've been using the Alpha H Retinol Reboot Exfoliating Body Treatment. This is my favorite body product at the moment. I've gotten so many questions about whether or not retinol is safe for your body because the EU limited retinol in face products to 0.3% recently. For body products, because you are using a lot more of it on a lot more of your body, that's been limited even more to 0.05%. If you're familiar with retinol, you'll know that 0.05% is just so low. It is probably not going to do much unless you have like a seriously magical formulation. So obviously everyone wants to use higher than 0.05%. Now the logic behind this recommendation is actually a bit weird because it's not limited because people were getting too much retinol from cosmetic products. It's because people were getting too much retinol from food plus supplements plus cosmetic products all combined. And because the committee making this decision was the SCCS, CES stands for Cosmetic Safety, they could only do stuff about cosmetics, not food and supplements, so they just limited cosmetics. And I guess that makes sense, but also really not. It's just like one of those situations where I really wish that different parts of the government would actually get together and make up their minds together. On average, they worked out that people were getting 5 to 10 times more retinol from food than from cosmetics, and 2.5% of people were getting over the upper limit of vitamin A for pregnant people. I will link the assessment below so you can check it out, and everyone's favorite toxicologist, science communicator, Mo Skin Lab, he also did a video on it. Based on this assessment, I am pretty comfortable using 1% retinol on my body. I don't take any supplements with vitamin A. I eat pate made from liver, which is rich in vitamin A, maximum once a year. I'm also not applying it every day all over my body. I'm probably doing 2 or 3 times a week, and I'm applying it only on my hands, my chest, and on dark marks on my arms and legs. So all of that makes it a lot safer. I don't know if this is just me, but it feels like a bit of a waste of retinol to use it everywhere all over my body. If I was pregnant, I would only use retinol on my face. I talked about this in the Huberman video. I know it's not recommended in so many places, but it's not really supported by the scientific evidence. It doesn't seem like cosmetic skincare is really that much of a problem. And the official health recommendation for my state is that cosmetic skincare products are fine. This is really good value compared to other retinol products, especially for what you get. It has 1%, which is really high for a body product, and it is encapsulated. Encapsulation means that it's more stable and it delivers it more gently, and that means that you're more likely to get an effective amount without your skin completely freaking out. It also has glycolic acid at 8% and lactic acid at 2%. It has a runny texture, which is sort of like a serum, and a super light fragrance. It says it is citrus floral musk. I don't know, it smells quite nice and really subtle. This is just really good. I think it is just super underrated. Alpha H also have a vitamin C and niacinamide body serum, which are both also really good for dark spots. You can also use hydroquinone, arbutin, and all of the other ingredients from my hyperpigmentation video. Another retinol body product that I was really excited about was the Olay Retinol Body Wash. I chucked out the empty bottle because it was just massive. It was like maybe this big. Turns out I did have it. It's this big, slightly smaller than I remembered, but still huge. I bought 2 bottles back from the US because I had seen so many good reviews of it. I gave 1 bottle to my friend Hannah English, and I started using it a few times and it was really nice, but then I noticed that my skin was just getting a little bit itchy. And I decided at that point to check the ingredients. I probably should have done that earlier, and it had MI in it, which I am allergic to. I wasn't sure it was that, but I didn't really want to risk it getting worse, so my husband used up the rest of the bottle, and he did not appreciate it because he is a skincare heathen. He said he didn't see any difference, but I mean, he isn't going to notice anything. There are tons of good reviews on it from people like Esther, the melanin chemist. I really trust her. She has really good taste. Of course, I have to mention sun protection because it is so important for fading dark spots and also just any sort of skin problem in general. And this is especially the case if you are also using alpha hydroxy acids, which are going to make your skin more sun sensitive. I really like using sun protective clothing for my body. It is just so much easier, and I have a video for that. Moisturizing also helps your skin exfoliate itself. A tip for moisturizers: products that are called creams aren't necessarily more moisturizing than products that are called lotions. This myth is in a whole bunch of dermatology textbooks, so you will see dermatologists saying this all over the internet, but it's not true. There is no strict difference between them. In general, products that are marketed as creams are going to be thicker than products that are marketed as lotions, but that thickness, that difference in texture, doesn't have much to do with moisturization. To get a thicker texture, usually the cream will just have a tiny bit more waxy emulsifiers. This is ingredients like cetyl alcohol. They aren't actually very moisturizing. The ingredients that are moisturizing are usually not making that much difference to the texture. For example, there are lots of lotions with petrolatum and glycerin in them. Those two are really moisturizing ingredients. Now, there is a difference between face and body products, and it's mostly just practical. Face creams are usually formulated so that they don't spread quite as much. Body moisturizers are formulated to be longer spreading, which means that when you apply it, it will just glide for longer. You don't go dry partway through and get your hands stuck. I've been really enjoying the Vaseline Intensive Care Body Lotions. I find them hydrating without being sticky and greasy, and they sink in nice and quick. A few reminders: if you have itchy skin, try not to stay in the shower for too long because then you're washing those moisturizing components away from your skin. Also, try not to have really hot water or use harsh cleansers. The cleanser I'm currently using is the Bioderma Shower Oil. I really love this product. It's really gentle. It has tons of moisturizing ingredients in it. This does have a light fragrance, which is pretty unusual for a Bioderma product, but the reason for that is that this is really rich in lipids. Lipids are fatty substances, they're in our skin, and this is meant to replenish them. The ones that are especially good for our skin are unsaturated, but that also means that they go rancid pretty easily. So the light fragrance is just to cover up that smell. This also comes in a refill sack. On to breakouts and folliculitis, and this is where this whole oxidation sign is actually going to come up. So folliculitis are like little red inflamed pus spots usually. They are infected hair follicles. They look like really tiny pimples. Personally, I get them a lot in my armpits and on my butt. Usually it's when I'm sweaty or after exercising, also if there's a bit of friction. I also find that it flares when I'm stressed or if I'm not sleeping well. And my first experimental tip for this is maybe try changing from a laundry liquid to a laundry powder. A little while back, I ended up deep down a rabbit hole about laundry detergents. I was originally thinking that maybe because I am allergic to isothiazolinones, some detergents might have been contributing to breakouts, and I was trying to really work out which detergents because detergents do not have their ingredients on them. But then I came across a whole other thing about powders versus liquids, and it kind of blew my mind because the standard dermatologist recommendation that you'll see everywhere for sensitive skin is to go for a liquid over a powder because liquids should be rinsing out more easily. But for this specific skin issue, folliculitis, there might actually be a really big upside with powders. Most powders have oxidizing agents. These produce reactive free radicals, and they can kill microbes through oxidation. This is the same way that bleach and benzoyl peroxide kill microbes. The one that's mostly in laundry detergents, laundry powders, is sodium percarbonate. The per bit is actually referring to hydrogen peroxide. That can come off when sodium perchlorate, the whole laundry powder, dissolves in water. But hydrogen peroxide, it just doesn't last for very long, so liquid detergents which already have water in them, we can't have this sort of oxidizing technology inside them. So far anyway, I feel like at some point someone is going to work out how to do it and it will be fantastic. So if you're using liquids, it's possible that your contaminated clothes just aren't getting sanitized enough. There are still microbes hanging on them. But the other issue that I also bumped into when I was deep down this rabbit hole, a lot of washing machines actually have microbial biofilms growing inside them. So basically just like a thin layer of bacteria or mold. So your clothes might actually be getting contaminated while they're being washed, and some of the species that have been found inside washing machines are the same species that have been linked to folliculitis. So the theory is the oxidants inside laundry powders can potentially keep these microbes at a lower level inside your washing machine than liquids can. So I started washing my clothes with half liquid and half OxiClean powder, and that seems to have helped a bit. I've also been soaking my clothes in OxiClean before washing. If anyone uses period underwear, that really helps to get rid of the smell, but this sort of pre-wash isn't going to help if the issue is actually inside your machine. There is actually a study where they tested adding hydrogen peroxide as a pre-wash versus inside the wash with the laundry detergent. They used a liquid detergent. So adding hydrogen peroxide to your wash is also an option. I will link that study below as well. I keep forgetting to look into how to properly sanitize my washing machine. If you are prone to folliculitis and you want to try, adding extra oxidation to your laundry, please let me know how it goes for you. I am super interested to see if this actually makes a difference. I've also been trying a few more skincare-ish things. Benzoyl peroxide wash. This is really great because that bleaching that you get from benzoyl peroxide, the chance of that is just so much lower. This also seems to work pretty well as a deodorant if you use it on your armpits, a lot like the chemical exfoliants. I've also seen people recommend hypochlorous acid for this, and I think it could help as well. It would be essentially doing the same thing as benzoyl peroxide, which is killing microbes through our oxidation here. I am kind of conflicted about hypochlorous acid though, because the marketing surrounding it is just really misleading and skeezy and kind of conspiracy coded. I mean, this one has like chemical free on it, which is just really, There's a whole bunch of claims around acne for it, and the studies are just like really not that good. Kind of Steven has some posts on the likely illegal drug claims. But the main thing that really gets to me, there are so many brands that have all these very adamant disclaimers about how this is completely different from chlorine bleach. It is all natural and it's in your white blood cells and all of this natural marketing stuff. Chemically, it is essentially the same as dilute bleach. It's just that bleach sounds scary and bad for your skin, but it's actually not if it's dilute. Putting a bit of bleach in your bath is actually recommended for a bunch of skin conditions. The evidence that it actually works is neither here nor there, but it does seem to be at least safe. If you've done some chemistry, you can probably work out how to dilute bleach and put it in a spray bottle for the same effect. If you aren't really confident, if you don't know what you're doing, I would highly recommend against it because mixing, oxidizing things, they don't mix the same as other products. You can end up generating a whole bunch of chlorine, which is just not good for you. And yes, all of this oxidation is bad for your microbiome. Your microbiome is the community of microbes on your skin, but that's sort of the point here if you have a condition that is caused by microbes like folliculitis. Your microbiome is really problematic, you are trying to change it. I've also been using a chlorhexidine wash, Shulky Microshield. It's a surgical hand wash, and when I'm having a whole bunch of breakouts, I'll just put it all over my body in the shower and I'll just leave it on for a little bit before rinsing it off. I think the equivalent in the US is Hibiclens. Hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, please like and subscribe. If you missed my first video, that one has more tips. Please do not judge the video quality too much. It was 4 years ago. Hopefully some of these tips are helpful. Let me know how they go. I also have a whole bunch of skincare videos in this playlist.